All right. So welcome to Dog Skills. It's the human end of dog training. And generally it's weekly on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Today I had to do some changes and have it at 1 o'clock. But in the future, it'll go back to 2 again on Wednesdays. And today's call is going to be all about dogs that, lunge and bark on leash walks. We're going to learn how to get your dog to be more calm on leash walks. Oh, great. Carol's here. Awesome. So glad to have you, Carol. So I know, Howie, your particular dog isn't having this problem, but you probably still can get a lot out of the call. And any of you guys that are watching the replay, definitely comment. So I wanted to share with you about the past dog that I had, Seiki. When I got him, I adopted him, and he was reactive on the leash when he saw other dogs that were barking. Generally, if the dogs were quiet, he was pretty quiet. But if I was walking him down the sidewalk and a dog was like charging at a fence line, some dogs will walk by and act like it's not a big deal. Seiki immediately got his guard on and wanted to bark and react back. And I wanted to be able to use him to help out a lot of other dogs that were reactive around other dogs. So we immediately nipped that in the butt and did a lot of training with helping him be more calm when he saw dogs that were barking. And in fact, we did so much work with it that he learned how to calm down some dogs when they were in a reactive state. It was really cool to see. So I wanted to help you be able to create the same with your dogs. And some of your dogs are going to be, not super barky on the walks, and some of you may have severe on-leash reactivity. Either way, the methods that we're going to talk today are really, really going to be supportive and helpful for you. So again, definitely watch the replay, comment below, and share this video with others. Definitely this time of year, it is the time of giving, the time of sharing. Help people out. And again, those comments that you write allow me to be able to help you. I can read them. I will respond to every single comment that I see. I really want to personally help you. I'm definitely here for you. And again, we're going to talk about the outdoor challenge. It's almost over. So the outdoor challenge is a challenge about taking your dog out throughout the cold season and the holiday season. It started at the beginning of November. It ends on January 1st. And we're challenging you to take your dog outside for exercise during the holiday season, even in the cold. And every single Facebook Live that we're doing is going to support you with creating that from the beginning of November to January 1st. It's all about getting our dogs to be really well behaved on and off the leash. Well, maybe not obviously, but the dog skills will continue into January for sure. So definitely keep coming back on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. So during the outdoor challenge, so from November to the beginning of January, we are challenging you also to keep coming back on each Wednesday. You will be entered to win a webinar that I did, is leash walking a drag, a loose leash walking webinar. And many people paid to attend this webinar. It's really good. People have come out on the other side with really, really great results. And we would love to personally share this with you for free. But you gotta come to the most Facebook Lives in order to win. So before I talk about today, I do want to stress that I want to be able to help you. So definitely now and on the replay. So Carol, definitely, I want you to share what topics or dog struggles would you like to see on a Facebook Live. If you let me know, I will do my best to create a Facebook Live on the topic or the struggle that you're dealing with. So my first personal question to you is, do you have a dog that is reactive on the leash? And if yes, what does your dog react towards? People, other dogs, cars, bikers, skateboarders? And Carol, I don't remember you saying that there was reactivity, but if there is, definitely type yes and what your dog reacts to. Otherwise, you can type no and use this as a really awesome learning experience for you, because the more you learn about dog training, the more you're empowered to get your dog to listen. So even if you're watching something that might not necessarily pertain to the struggles that you're having with your dog, you're still going to get a lot out of it. So Carol says, yes, she lunges at other people and dogs and just wants to play. Okay, so most people are, that are probably going to be watching this are going to be dealing with a dog that's more reactive in a way of, I'm scared, or I want to, attack you, or I'm frustrated with being on the leash. You're telling me that your dog actually wants to play and interact with them. So as I go through the methods today, I will point out the ones that are going to be the most effective for that circumstance, because it definitely is different if your dog is reacting and I want to say hi to you versus reacting with I feel scared or move away from me. She thinks everybody wants to play, so people and dogs. Okay. So I wouldn't necessarily call that reactivity. Generally, we classify reactivity as, again, I'm barking and lunging because I feel some sort of intense emotion and I want this person or object or dog to move away. So yours is more like, I'm excited, I love you, come over here. And again, some of these methods will help with that, and I will point out the ones that will. So setups help a lot, and honestly, that's the case for any type of training at all. But definitely if you're dealing with reactivity, enrolling people or dogs to help you. We want calm dogs and calm people. So don't enroll a dog that's going to be super barky or whiny on the leash, or a person that's going to be like, hey, I want to pet your dog, or super high strung and running around everywhere. Train in predictable locations where people or dogs are walking in predictable patterns. So in Salt Lake, there's like Sugar House Park, and there's a circle that goes around and around and around. Most people walk on the paved trail. It's a predictable walking trail. You know that most people are going to be on there. That's kind of what I mean. Or if you're in a grocery store parking lot, most people are going to get out of their car and enter into the store, and then they're going to leave the grocery store and go to their car. So you've got some predictable walking patterns versus if you're just walking down the street or sidewalks in your neighborhood, you don't know when a person or dog is going to show up and what corner they're going to come around in. It's highly unpredictable. So predictable locations help out, or doing setups. You want to have plenty of distance, especially when you're dealing with reactivity. Fields and parking lots are great. And have an escape route planned. Your car is a great option. And again, the escape route I'm talking about with that reactivity, aggression, or fear stance. Because if an off-leash dog or a person does keep approaching you, even after you've stated that your dog doesn't want to do a greeting, you're going to want to make sure that you can leave the situation really easily without having a fight or a bite or an incident happen. And the easiest thing is to have your car nearby, stay near your car, have it be unlocked so that you can just pop in there really quickly. So, Carol, this will definitely pertain to you. So Carol said, like the Jordan River Parkway, I walk there a lot. I don't know. I have actually not been to the Jordan. Actually, I have. It's just been a long time. That wasn't my normal hangout because I lived in Salt Lake. From what I was remembering is it's kind of like right by the river, and there's a paved trail, and most people walk on that. If I'm remembering that correctly, that would be a predictable walking pattern. In your case, you don't need that predictability or setup as much as someone who's dealing with reactivity, but it definitely can help. So we want to, so Carol says, yes, that's correct. Okay, good. We want to find the distance that you need to be away from the trigger so that your dog is below threshold, and have your dog be on the leash. So below threshold means that your dog isn't super stressed. So definitely for reactivity, this is really, 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 really important. For your situation, Carol, you don't need to be perfect at it. But you definitely don't want to have your dog so excited to the point that they just can't even consume what you're teaching them. You know, if you have a kid that's bouncing off the walls, it is hard to teach them reading, right? So we need some level of calmness going on. For reactivity, we need a huge amount of calmness going on. So below threshold body language, the ears are usually neutral or minorly forward or back, not significant. The tail's at neutral height. Again, you're looking at the base of the tail, like we've talked about in the kid and safety Facebook Live. We did a lot on reading body language in there. So if you want to, you know, learn more about reading dog body language, you can go on that Facebook Live. If you're having trouble finding that link and you want to watch it, just comment about it and I'll attach it in the comments. So neutral height of the tail, only like minorly up or down. We don't want like a huge, you know, height of the tail or like of the tail to be majorly low. We want the mouth is going to be like in an open, relaxed fashion. Or if it's closed, there's not going to be a lot of muscular tension around the jaw. The body weight's relatively neutral. It's not super forward and not super backward. And the dog is quiet, not barking, whining, or howling. So, right now in the comments and when you watch the replay, can you answer this question? What behavior signs do you see in this dog that's showing us that this dog is below threshold? So I'm really excited to read what you have to say about that. And I really invite you to answer that question because it's going to actually get your brain into like thinking it through and being like, yeah, I'm learning this, I'm integrating it, I'm using my brain to answer this question, because then it gets more into your long-term memory and increases your ability to have success. So Carol says that the ears look relaxed. Okay. So forward ears, if the ears are really, really forward, that's not a sign of relaxation. But they're not super forward, they're just minorly forward. So I would say the ears look relatively neutral or maybe a little bit forward. And this, we know we're dealing with a Shiba Inu here, so they already have pointy ears, right? Every dog's going to be different, but they are going to take those ears more forward or back, even if they have floppy ears, the base of the ears. Even if you got a German Shepherd, you're looking at those base of those ears. And Kara also says not leaning forward. Yeah, that's the dog has a very balanced body weight. If your dog is leaning forward, you have him on the leash is tense, you're trying to hold him back, you cannot train in that moment. That's a significantly difficult situation to train. You don't have connection. They're so amped up that they can't even comprehend what you're teaching them. Nice job. And then the tail here, I mean, a Shiba Inu already would have a tail that's going to be higher up than some dogs, but is it at its normal height? And when you look at the base of it, is it going up a little bit more than normal or down than normal? I would say that in this one, it's hard for me to tell unless I learned to read this dog a little bit better and watch some videos of this dog's behavior. But I would say, I think it could be up a lot higher than it is, right? We also can see here, like which we didn't talk about, the alignment of the spine. There's a little curvature in the spine. It's not completely straight between the head and the back. That's also telling us that this dog could be more below threshold as well. And by the way, my friend Robin Jones, Robin Dawn Photography, took this picture. She's amazing at photography. So if you are looking for anyone that does amazing photography. Definitely hook up with her. You can find her on Facebook, and she lives in Pennsylvania at this time. Okay. So above threshold body language for a fearful dog. Okay, because the body language for a dog that's aggressing or wanting to attack, move into the person's space or the dog's space is very different. It's going to be the complete opposite of this. So a fearful dog, above threshold, not in the zone of learning, not a great time to be applying the methods that I talk about today. The ears are backwards, the tail is down or low. The tail might be in between the legs. The mouth is tightly closed with tension around the jawline. The body weight is more backwards. There's cowering going on. The back may be stiff, and the back may be even in an arc formation. And the dog may not be quiet. It might be growling, barking, whining. So, in this particular picture, this dog is a fearful dog, and it is above threshold. What signs tell you that this dog is above threshold? Comment below so that, we really help get this into your long-term memory, and you can learn about dog body language really well. I'm so excited to see what you guys point out on this. One thing that I see is the tail's in between the legs, right? And it's down really low. What do you see, Carol? Pulling back. So yeah, the body weight's going backwards. It is not balanced. The ears are pinned back against their head. Absolutely. You also mentioned about the tail between the legs. And we can also see kind of like that contortion with the spine, like the body is almost slinking together like a slinky. And there could be an arc formation going on here. And the body's almost lowering, it's cowering down. Basically, when you have a dog that's fearful, they want to get smaller and move away generally. This is the same thing with human body language. It's no different. We just stand on two legs and we don't have a tail. So if you had trouble remembering these things, just be like, well, what would I do if I was really scared? You're going to do the same thing. Yeah. So not a good time to do the methods that I'm teaching you if your dog is in this state. Above threshold body language. So for an aggressive stance, the ears are forward, the tail is upward. It may be stiff or up and wagging quickly, which is called a flag tail. So if it's up and stiff, the wagging fast, that's called a flag tail. So remember, like we talked about in reading the body language in the kitten safety video, a tail that's wagging does not mean a dog is friendly. It's the height of the tail that you're looking at and the speed of the wag. Okay, we got a really quick speed of the wag here, super high base of the tail. The mouth is tightly closed with tension around the jawline or open, and there could be barking or growling going on, maybe whining. Generally, barking or growling would be more prominent for an aggressive stance. The body weight is forward. There could be lunging happening. The back is stiff and head might be in alignment with the spinal column. So, what behavior signs show that this dog is above threshold? Do you see here? And I'm going to take a drink of tea. Oh, I'm excited to see what you see, Carol. I notice a lot of tension around that jawline. Look at that. And eventually that mouth is going to close when it's not barking. The eyes could also be really dilated and huge when a dog is in this stance. The squinty eyes are a little bit less likely to probably happen in a situation like this. Since the eyes are squinty, it does make me wonder, like, if this dog could be even at a higher state of stress if it was pushed more and got closer to the trigger. So tail is up, and we have stiffness around the eyes. Yeah, even though they are close, I think there is stiffness around there, and the body weight is forward, the lunging. Absolutely. Nice job, Carol. So, for a reactive dog, definitely probably won't work that good for a dog that's excited and wants to say hi to somebody. For a reactive dog, I love that training, behavior adjustment training. It was developed by Grisha Stewart, and there's different stages 1, 2, and 3. Wondering if any of you have heard of BAT training, behavior adjustment training, or BAT. Right, yes or no, and let me know if you've heard of it. Super excited to hear from you. And in BAT stage 1, again, it works best if you have a setup. So Carol says, no, she has not heard of BAT training. Yeah. It's definitely new, and a lot of people don't know about it. Really effective for a reactive dog. So if you have a reactive dog or you know somebody that does, this is definitely something that they could learn. It does have a long learning curve, so I don't expect you to be able to get it all in a quick Facebook Live. You want the dog to be below threshold again, as in all of the methods that I stated. So the dog is only minorly triggered or could be relaxed. You click when the dog looks at the trigger, and then you walk away from the trigger about 10 feet and you give a treat. You could also run away. So here's a client of mine, and this is a homework video she submitted. I did work with her through all live personalized online dog training. So you can see her setting up the camera. And then she's working with a cat. And the cat is going to fly off to the right. It will be off the camera, but when you notice the dog fixates in that direction, then that's when the dog's looking at the trigger, which is the cat. So right here, we have the fixation going on. Now again, we want the dog to be as below threshold as possible. Having a dog be completely relaxed is not impossible, but is usually harder to do. So if we compare this video with a dog that's scared, or this body language, we could see that there could be a lot more stress signs than what we're seeing here. Yes, the body weight is a little bit forward, but it's not significant. There's not a significant amount of tension on the leash. The tail is lower, but it could be even lower than this. The ears is hard to tell. We do have a mouth closed, right? So is this the safe spot to do training? For some dogs, yes. For others, it might be too high of a stress level. But I want you to notice that the owner is going to click when the dog looks at the trigger, which is here. So you're going to hear the click, and then notice how she walks away and then gives a treat. And she runs away, so she makes it super fun. And then she gives the dog a treat. So basically what we're doing is we're giving the dog what they want. That's the really nice thing about BAT training, is we're saying, can you notice the trigger is here and not have a reaction? Just notice it. So again, you have to have the dog to be below threshold, because otherwise they're going to have a full-blown reaction. And you create that by being at a good distance. If you're too close to the trigger, then you're going to have a huge reaction. So you need to be farther away. Doing the setups or predictable locations will help you. So this one's more of, I think, kind of like a predictable location where she's kind of aware of the cat's normal walking patterns outside. So she moved away, and notice when she moved away after she clicked, she did running, she made it super fun, and she's giving her dog a treat. So the dog wanted to get away from the trigger, and then got what they wanted, right? So they got a double reward, moving away and a treat, and they got the reward for not reacting, not having a huge reaction, for just saying, oh, I noticed that I was stressed and I chose to move away, right? Really good thing to teach. So Carol, this is not going to be the best method for you, for having a dog that's excited, because they don't want to move away from the trigger, they want to move towards it, right? Okay, so bat stage 2. So generally you do bat stage 1 first, and then once you feel like you've got that down, then you move to stage 2. Again, it's best to create a setup, have your dog be below threshold, and then you're gonna, when the dog notices the trigger, you're gonna wait for the disengage, and then you're gonna click during the disengage. And then you walk away from the trigger about 10 feet and give a treat. So what does the disengage mean? The dog looks at the trigger and then disengages from the trigger with its eyes or its head. So its eyes or head then turns away from the trigger generally in a look away fashion. The most common signs I see with the disengagement is the dog could just strictly just do a look away. The dog could shake off like they're shaking off water, but there is no water. And their head also is, again, disengaging from the trigger. So we don't want to click if the dog is shaking off and still staring at the trigger. Sniffing the ground, again, same thing. Dog cannot be still staring at the trigger. They notice the trigger, they see the trigger, then they disengage their eyes or the head while they're sniffing on the ground. Good time to click. Lip lick. So again, head or eyes looks, notices the trigger. They then turn away from the trigger and a lip lick happens at the same time. You click that and then walk away. So this one has that stage 1 and 2 in it, and I want you to tell me in the comments what disengage do you see when we're doing stage 2. So we start with stage 1 in here, I believe.
You nervous about the front door? Janet, you nervous about the door?
So looking at the front door, a little nervous that somebody might be there. Owner click during the fixation and then walks away and treats. So they can walk away out of sight. Sometimes you're going to have to because you might be in a smaller location. Again, the treat was given when the owner walked away with the dog. Now their owner is going to return to about the same location. They're not going to keep moving closer. So at this point, what disengage do we see? Looking at the cat, which is the trigger, fixating on the cat.
Good boy. That was so good. He looked away and he licked those lips.
The owner walked away and treated. So, oh, interesting. It's going to let the video move around some more. See if I can get it to stop doing that. Okay. Very interesting. Maybe I will just delete it then. So what disengage did you see when the dog noticed the cat? So initially, she was working actually with 2 different variables. There was the noise outside the door, which she did a bat stage 1 in. And then there was, I noticed the cat, and the engage happened, and then there was a disengage. What disengage did you see? So Carol says clicking. Clicking happens during the disengage. What was the disengage that you saw? Was it a look away? Was it a shake off? Was it sniffing the ground or a lip lick? There was a look away where the dog turned its head away from the cat. So let's see if it'll let me. Yep, so she said look away. Good job. So you did see that. Okay, perfect. So then that stage 3. Again, setups are great with that. Have the dog be below threshold when we're doing stage 3. So again, you're working on stage 1 when you feel like you're well with that. You're doing well with that, then you go to stage 2. Stage 3, then you progress towards once you feel like you're good at stage 1 and 2. You're waiting for the dog to disengage and you're saying yes during the disengage, and then you're walking away about 10 feet and do not give a treat. So you're basically, the only reward is the dog gets to leave the trigger. They don't get the bonus reward of the treat. Grisha likes to call it a bonus reward. So with this particular client, actually, we didn't work on stage 3. You can still get results. It's just doing 1 and 2. And that's as far as we have gotten together. And the owner had significant changes in the dog's behavior, especially in the house around the cat and with noises. Her dog was a lot more calm. So it really works, but you do have to be consistent and put a lot of time and energy into it. Another method is LAT, or look at that. And the founder of this one is Leslie McDivitt. I'm giving you the names, so if you want to do research on these people, you can. It's similar to bat stage 1. You're going to click when your dog looks at the trigger, except you do not walk away. You just stay there. And again, your dog needs to be below threshold. So Carol, this one could work really good for you. So again, you don't want to be clicking when Frida notices the trigger and then is like jumping and going crazy, because then you could be rewarding that. You want it to be, you know, more like when they initially notice the person there. So again, like that below threshold stands like here. And then you would click that and no need to walk away. So have you heard of LAT or look at that training? I would love for you to comment and let me know if you have. Right, yes or no in the comments below. So this is an owner, again, that I work through online dog training. And so Carol says no, she has not heard of LAT. That's okay, a lot of people have not. This is the one I did a lot with Seiki. I actually did the LAT with him. This is a client that I worked with a terrier through private Zoom dog training online. And this is a homework video that she submitted, and she's actually going to be working with her dog with cars. So it's a predictable setting. She knows where the cars are going to be driving at, and she's set up in a way where she can have enough distance away from the cars for the dog to be below threshold and to work on the LAT. So again, you can see her setting up the camera. So hopefully you guys can see that, you know, a lot of these people that do the Zoom training, they don't always have a second person to hold the camera. It's not necessary at all. So their dog noticed the trigger and we didn't get the click. That happens one more time where she doesn't get the click. Really good to remember that training is not about perfectionism. You're always going to do the best that you can. You are going to miss things sometimes. I think she misses it one more time. And that's because she's getting situated. And again, she's human. So this next time, dog's going to look over at the trigger. So if you look to the right, the viewer's right, along that tree line, behind there, there's cars driving by on the road. So that's what she's working with the LAT with her. So there she clicked when the dog looked at the trigger and then gave the treat. Dog knows the trigger, clicked and treated again. Clicked when the dog looked at the trigger. And right there, there's a really good pause for me to show you. This is when the click is happening. Okay. And then we continue onward. And of course, like, you know, since we worked with each other one-on-one, you know, we did talk about when the dog jumps, she can turn her back to us and some of that jumping. There was some excitement going on in this as well. So let's test your mind. Is the owner clicking when the dog is looking at the trigger or when the dog is looking at the owner? When do we click for the LAT? Please answer. Let's see what you have integrated on that so I can make sure that I'm communicating clearly. Excited to read your comments. So this is LAT, again, with a predictable setting. So in the distance, there's a dog park. Oh, so Carol says when the dog is looking at the owner. Again, no. Okay, you click when the dog looks at the trigger. Okay. So again, like when I paused it in this video, and even that you can see where it is here, the dog is looking at the trigger, not the owner. You're clicking when the dog is looking at the trigger. So good job for commenting to that, because that's going to help you understand this better. So can you notice at the end of the video that this dog looks at the trigger less? So I want you to notice the owner's going to click when the dog looks at the trigger, and then as time goes on, the dog actually looks at the trigger less and looks at the owner more. All right, so Carol, definitely pay attention to that the click is happening when the dog is looking at the trigger. So right there, dog's at the trigger, the click happens.
Look.
And this one, we can hear that the owner is saying a command, which is look, so you can do that. You can say look or look at that.
Look.
Ideally, we want the dog to be looking back when you click.
Look.
If the dog is not looking back to you after you click, that's telling you that the dog probably is above threshold. So then you need to be farther back, farther away from the trigger. The dog is looking back most of the time when the click's happening. That time you did not, but we still treated it. Now look, the dog is staring at the owner for that short time period, much longer than what we had in the beginning. Again, dog is staring at the owner longer than what we started with. So, and she did reward the dog looking at her. You could take that out. That doesn't need to happen. It'll just naturally happen on its own. We basically want to say good job for looking at the trigger and not reacting. So towards the end of the video, did you notice the dog looking at the trigger less? Were you able to see that? Did you see that difference, Carol? And the people that are watching the replay, let me know. So this one is LAT with the person outside the window. So Carol says, yes, she could notice that difference. Good. That's great. So that's how it works, because then the dog is going to look at the trigger less, right? They're getting rewarded for looking at the trigger. And then over time, their stress is going to go down and they're just going to choose to look at the trigger less and bond with you more. So a little bit different than the bat training where they're learning to disengage and move away. This one, they're learning to notice it and then eventually overt to you more. So bat training I'll use a lot with dogs that are less food motivated. Dogs that have a high intensity of aggression or fear can definitely benefit through bat training a lot. LAT, I use it more with dogs that are more like yours, Carol. They're just more excited, or they might just be like minorly reactive. Like Seiki was reactive, but it was kind of on the minor end, and you used to use that with him. So here, this is a training setup. Okay, so most of the other ones I used were just predictable settings. So you will see a person that comes behind the fence line. This person was asked to be there. We enrolled this person to be there, or this owner did. Because again, this is a Zoom recording, or I worked with this client privately through Zoom as well. So if you imagine if I do in-person training and we want to work with the trigger outside, if that triggers me, then we got to talk on the cell phone. A lot harder to communicate, and I can't even hardly see your dog. Second of all, if we're using somebody that is not me, let's say your dog's okay with me, and we got to enroll that third person to be there, then we got to collaborate and coordinate all three of our schedules. What a pain in the butt. I've done it, but it's like so much harder. So here the owner just set up the camera, propped it up on something, and all she had to do was collaborate her schedule with this other person. Works really nice, and that's how you're going to have to do it on a continual basis anyway. You've got to be able to do that in order to create results with working in those predictable settings or enrolling those people to help you in those setups. So you're going to notice that Dolly looks out at the person and the owner clicks. So right there is the person. You're going to see him moving a little bit in behind that fence, and he's a little low.
We'll start here. Okay.
And actually, he is winging around a what do you call those things? I can't remember what they're called, but you can throw the ball with them. Who remembers? Comment, because I can't remember what they're called now. Now, for some dogs, that's going to be a lot. and really cause a dog to be above threshold. It's not for Dolly, but if it is for your dog, then you want that person to be just calm and standing there and not really moving. Right, so notice the dog's looking at the owner. The owner treated that. No need to do that. We don't need to reward the dog for looking at you. Clicked when the dog was looking at the trigger. Owner gave the treat. Click again for looking at the trigger. The owner gives the treat. That time, the owner or the dog was looking at the opposite direction. There wasn't a trigger there. So obviously, when I watched this video, which is really nice because I screen share them live with my clients, I told her, I said, well, you don't need to click when the dog looks off to the right or the dog's right, unless there was a trigger there, and there wasn't. It would only be when the dog was looking towards the left at the actual trigger out here.
Good girl. Look.
So again, dog looking at the right, no need to click there. But to the left, there's our click.
Good girl. Look.
And again. And there again.
Good girl.
And then I won't watch this whole thing in a while, but I'm pretty sure even in this video, Dolly starts looking at the owner more.
Good girl. Look. Dolly, look. Good girl.
Yeah, so we have not even engaging out there at all, but I think the trigger actually moved. So of course we had to talk about don't do the door knocking because that's just getting the dog to be above threshold. I'm gonna say you can see, oh, there's the person still out there.
I think that's like too distracting. So that's
So
good.
notice
So now, look.
dog was the trigger.
Let's
Owner
have
gave a
you
treat.
come up to the door.
Do we have the dog looking at the owner more? Yes, we do. Absolutely. And then she asked him to come up the door and knock. So now we created above threshold. Don't do that. When your dog's being successful, that's when you end the training session. We don't need to jump from, oh, good, you did it with addition and subtraction today. Now we're going to plow you with multiplication. No, you need to integrate the addition and subtraction for quite a few weeks before you're going to go to that next level. Okay, so Carol says she has one of those things too that throws the ball, but she can't remember the name either. Oh, we both can't. Oh, it'll come to us eventually, right? All right, so when there are other ways than what I'm telling you in this video, but obviously very, very clear that we're all using positive reinforcement. Notice I haven't talked about any shot callers hitting or yelling at the dog. You can severely increase aggression or fear problems with using those methods. And unfortunately, I have had clients that have worked with trainers that have done that with them in the past, even without permission from the owner to shock their dog, and then their dog got more aggressive. So really, really important that you screen the dog trainer you're going to work with. If you work with me, you're in safe hands. And if you feel skeptical about it, then watch all my Facebook Lives or look on my Facebook page. It's clear as day that I do reward-based training and that I don't do any of those pain-based methods. Okay, so counter conditioning is another method to use for reactivity. So Carol, again, I think that look at that's going to work the best for you. Okay. So this would be a dog that's really fearful or reactive on the aggressive end. We want the dog to be below threshold, and the idea is the dog looks at the trigger and something really fun happens, such as continuously eating a favorite treat. So the dog's staring at the trigger for a while, the food keeps coming out, but again, the dog's below the threshold. If the dog is looking back and forth between you and the trigger, every time the dog looks at the trigger, he or she gets her favorite treat. She looks back towards you, the treat does not happen. So then over time, the dog pairs the trigger with this yummy food item, and the emotional response starts getting more relaxed or happy. So this is really, really important. I really want to stress this. Do not teach your dog to look at you and ignore the trigger. So if you teach your dog to stare at you and ignore the trigger if you have an aggressive or a fearful dog, You're teaching your dog to look at you and ignore the trigger. This can spook your dog when the trigger gets closer because your dog didn't know it was moving closer to him or her because he was looking at you instead. And then all of a sudden he realizes, oh my God, it's a foot away from me. Roar! Or, whoa, I'm really scared now. It spooked me. I didn't even know it was there. Don't do that. There are books out there that teach it. It's really not getting your dog to be more comfortable with the trigger. All you're doing is you're teaching them to ignore things. Or avoid stuff, right? If you have a problem with somebody and you want to work it out, avoiding talking to them is not going to clear the issue. If the person is healthy and doesn't have toxic communication, opening that can of worms and talking in a healthy way with that person is then going to decrease that anxiety, right? Same thing with this method, okay? Or all of these methods, you really want to make sure that you're doing that. And Carol, same thing with you, like your dog is not going to get spooked when the trigger gets closer because you're dealing with excitement and happiness. But if the dog didn't realize that the owner was moving closer and you're teaching him to stare at you, then eventually when he's like, oh, now I realize right there, just turn around and immediately jump on them and knock them down, right? So definitely make sure you do the LAT. Click when the dog looks at the trigger for you, Carol. So for the counter conditioning, we're going to talk more about that. But before I show you a video on that, I want to ask you, have you been teaching your dog to ignore the trigger and look at you instead? Are you rewarding the dog to look at you and ignore the trigger? Have you been doing that? Don't be embarrassed if you have, admit it, because awareness is key. And awareness helps you to change. Would love for you to reply. And to be honest, I actually have taught that in the past because there's been some books around it. And then over time I realized, oh, not a good idea. And then a lot of books were talking about why, and it made sense, and I stopped doing that. So Carol says, yes, I have. Okay, so definitely a good idea to get your dog to be more calm when they notice the trigger. If you, in your case, because your dog's not reactive, if you sometimes give the treats for looking at you too, isn't the end of the world, but definitely the LAT will make a huger difference. So this is counter conditioning, a video on that. We got a predictable setting. So off to the left, there's actually a dog park that's fenced in. And this dog lunges and reacts with other dogs. Okay. So, whoops, I want to go back. So back here is where the dog park is, and we can see, barely see the dog. So you can see we're pretty far away. Distance is really important to get the dog to be below threshold.
Where are they? Oh.
And we're not going to see any barking and lunging because the dog's below threshold. So notice when the dog looks out, the food happens. Dog's looking at the trigger, she's giving the treats. Now, why she's feeding the treats, is the dog turning its head back towards her? Yes, in this case it is. That will not always happen for all of you, but it can. But the food still happened or was initiated when the dog looked out at the trigger. And as we go, more treats are happening when the dog looks at the trigger. Dog is not looking at the trigger. Owner dropped a few treats. That's going to happen. Notice there, she waited till dog looks at the trigger and then is giving more treats. Dog's looking at trigger. So every time she's giving that treat, the dog looks back at the trigger and she gives another treat. So we got this back and forth happening between looking towards the owner and looking at the trigger. And here we can see the stress level is starting to increase, which is really nice because, again, this is a client I worked with through the online Zoom private dog training. I can point out the dog's behaviors. We can see the head, the neck starting to go up. This upward movement is happening. The dog is getting a slightly more stress. So at this point, if that doesn't decrease quickly, it would be time to increase the distance away from the trigger. And the reason why that happened is probably because the dog started barking. So we had a variable shift. So again, it will be easier if you work with calm dogs. You know, a dog that's not barking is more on the calm side. What special treat do you think would be good to use for counter conditioning if you're going to do it? So Carol, in your case, I don't think you know, counter conditioning is going to make a huge difference for you. But if you were to do counter conditioning, what special treat would you use? And those of you watching the replay, what special treat do you think would be best for counter conditioning? So systematic desensitization will happen in all of the above methods. I'm going to talk about it with the counter conditioning here, but you will do it with the LAT and the BAT. In this video that I'm going to show you, I want you to notice how the owner only moves closer when the dog has integrated the previous distance. Therefore, the dog appears relaxed or minorly stressed the entire time, even as the owner moves closer to the trigger. So Carol said she would use cheese. Wonderful. So this also is, it's debatable. Is it a setup or a predictable situation? What's going on is it's the neighbor's yard and the dogs are out. So a setup would be like, okay, I asked the neighbor to take out the dog. Maybe the predictable setting would be the dogs are just naturally there and you know where they're going to be and how long, or we know where they're going to run in their yard because their yard is probably fenced in. So this owner's yard is also fenced in. I would recommend the dog is on the leash when you do this for all the training. In this case, the owner worked with me privately and we did get to the point in the yard where the dog could be off the leash. Definitely for you guys, do it on the leash. And I really want you to notice again how the owner lets the dog integrate the previous distance before moving closer to the dogs. And as she's going towards the fence in front of her, that is moving closer to the neighbor's dogs that are at a distance, which you cannot see on the video. And again, you need to be far enough away. So that's why a lot of times you aren't seeing the triggers in the video. Okay. So again, we're doing counter conditioning. So dogs are off in the distance somewhere in that direction. Dog looks at the trigger, gets a treat. Looks at the trigger again, gets another treat. Dog looks at the trigger, gets a treat. So at this point, it kind of looks like the dog's getting the treats for when she looks back at the owner, but no, the owner's trying to give the treat when the dog looks at the trigger. But because the dog has done this for so long, I worked a lot with these people through the online Zoom dog training. They had an extremely reactive dog in the house, and we made leaps and bounds in this case, and in their yard as well. The dog starts predicting, oh, when I look at the trigger, I'm going to get a treat. So as soon as the dog looks at the trigger, it looks back at the owner to get the food. So that's what's happening here. So notice how we were at the previous distance for 25 seconds. The dog looked relaxed before we moved to the next distance. Or was at least fairly relaxed. And again, she's going to integrate this new distance for a while before moving closer again. And that's what desensitization is. It's a process that can take quite a few months or years. Not fast at all. Very slow, and it looks like paint drying on the wall, super boring. Except for me, because I like dog training. I think it's fascinating. So again, we let the dog integrate that distance before she moves to the next. That time, I think she kind of gave the treat for looking at her. We really want the dog to look at the trigger first. Looked at the trigger and gave the treat. And it continually goes on like this, integrates that distance, and she moves closer again, and she gets, will it let me jump up here? We end at about that distance here. So not a significant amount of, I mean, to me that's a significant amount, but to you that might seem relatively minor of a change. When you do move forward, you should only be moving 1 to 2 feet increments. You want to make it slow to help the dog be successful. That's why it's called systematic desensitization. Did you see how the owner integrated each distance so that the dog was comfortable before moving closer to the trigger? Yes or no? Please answer that question in the comments so I can help you best. So yes, cheese is her favorite. That's awesome. For Frida. Oh, ha, ha, ha. So that dog looks like Frida. Frida will learn to act like this. It'll take time. But your dog is not like reactive. Like this dog was like, I wanted you to get out of my space. Your dog wants people to come closer. So you're going to want to do the LAT versus the counter conditioning method, but you would still need to do systematic desensitization to have better results. I kind of already answered this question for you, Carol. But definitely let's have you write it in the comments. Make sure it gets in your long-term memory. Which method do you think you will give a try? The BAT, the LAT, or the counter conditioning? And if you're watching the replay, I would love for you to comment and let me know, because it's a good idea to know what method you're using, and also allows me to respond to your comment and help you out. So if you're dealing with a reactive dog, if you have trouble, consult us. We can work with you through one-on-one dog training. When is a good idea to consult us? If you're having trouble doing setups, if you can't get your dog to be below threshold, if your dog won't eat treats when you are doing one of the above methods. I can't tell you how many people call me and they say they try this and they say, my dog will not eat. That is an excellent indicator that you need help from a professional. It does not mean that your dog cannot be trained through positive reinforcement. It does not mean you need to use shock collars. It does not mean you have to hit or yell at your dog. What it does mean is your dog significantly stressed out, is above threshold. When the dog is above threshold, they will not eat. If you feel lost, if you feel like you aren't making progress, a really good time to get one-on-one help. This is a dog that I worked with a while ago, a healer that was reactive around a lot of people. And we got to the point where this particular dog could go on hikes and go to even events with multiple people in the room. It was wonderful. These methods can take months to implement and require much consistency and persistence and patience if you're dealing with a highly reactive dog. For you, Carol, it'll be a little bit faster because your dog is just excited. But please, 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 we are here to help you. Just ask us. And you don't need to struggle if you're dealing with a situation like this. Again, watch the replay, comment below, and share this video with others. We want to hear from you so we can help you best. Do want you to share this so that other people can get the help that they need. So Carol says she will do LAT. Yes, that is the method that I would recommend that'll work best for you and Frida. What topics or dog struggles would you like to see on a Facebook Live? Carol or anybody rewatching this video after the live, I would love for you to again tell me the topics or the struggles that you would like to see on a Facebook Live so that I can help you. And again, don't forget about the outdoor challenge. It started at the beginning of November. It goes till January 1st. We're challenging you to take your dog outside for exercise this holiday season, even in the cold. All of our Facebook Lives from November to the beginning of January will be focused on getting your dog to behave on and off the leash. The winner, the one who attends the most Facebook Lives, will receive is leash walking, a loose leash walking webinar. And this is from the beginning of November to January 1st. The one who receives the most Facebook Lives will receive this. You'll be the winner. Many people have paid to attend it and have really, really loved it. So definitely keep coming back so you can enter yourself to win. And generally on Wednesdays, it's at 2 p.m. Today was an exception. So, if you feel like you need additional help, you might be the perfect fit for the Amazing Dream Dog program. This program is focusing on getting your dog to be calm on the leash around triggers. In this program, you're going to feel much peace and confidence when you're walking your dog, because your dog will be calm on the leash when he or she sees other dogs or people. We can help you no matter where you live. All you use internet, smartphone, or computer or tablet. And like I said, all those videos I showed you above, they were all people that I worked with through Zoom privately. what you'll receive in the Amazing Dream Dog program. Your dog will learn quickly because I won't be there personally distracting your dog. So imagine that one dog that was in the yard. That dog was also reactive in the house. So imagine if I would have did in-person training. Every time I would come to their house, their dog would be reacting. So therefore, I would have to be outside of the house trying to train them what to do every time I came on a cell phone conversation. Pretty challenging and extremely tedious. So this way, I can teach them what to do, and they can enroll the people, which they need to do anyway, because the dog doesn't need to be more calm with me coming to the house. They need to be calm with the actual people that are going to show up and do those videos. And then we can screen share them together, and I can give them amazing feedback. So I do hold you accountable with those homework videos that you submit to me. And again, we screen share them together, and that enhances your learning because you're receiving feedback while you're watching yourself doing the training rather than in the moment. You're also going to learn how to easily read your dog's body language. So when you're dealing with a reactive or a fearful dog, we need to be able to read your dog's body language. That is so important. And if I point things out in the moment, your dog's behavior just shifts so quickly that it can prevent me being able to teach those signs, because I'll be like, oh, did you notice the ears move forward? They're gone now. The ears aren't moving forward anymore by the time you look down at your dog, but I can show you in a replay those subtle signs. And remember, those subtle signs are very important for you to read because you need to know how to get your dog to be below threshold for these methods to work. And that's why so many people that try these things on their own, they get frustrated because they're like, they can't get their dog to be below threshold in order to eat. They don't know how to read the dog's behavior well enough to know where they need to be and how far away they need to be from the trigger. And those are the things that I would help you with. And I'd also help you get to reading your dog's body language. I can pause, I can replay it. One of the dogs I worked with that was a German Shepherd, really reactive. The owner was just astounded with the online. He took so many videos and we would watch them over and over again. And I would point out every single time he would submit the videos, his dog's stress signs, and he learned how to read his dog so well. It was amazing. He started having people over at his house. He knew how to read his dog better on the leash. He loved the online. It was so great for him and for many others as well. So to book a phone chat, you can go to this link or text me. This link is a chat where you can text me, or sorry, set up a phone chat. This link is where you can learn more about the services that I offer you. And those links are also pinned in the comments below at the top. So I wish you